is endowed with 3 airports: JFK, Newark, and LaGuardia. Hi, and welcome to Urban Caffeine. My name is Thea, and in this video, we are going to talk about New York City's LaGuardia Airport. We are going to talk about a bit of its background, why you should or shouldn't use LaGuardia Airport, and do a bit of a walking tour of Terminal B, which is the airport's largest terminal. LaGuardia is the 20th busiest airport in the United States. This is quite impressive considering that it's mostly domestic flights. That's right, it's mostly domestic flights, but LaGuardia also has international flights that don't require border pre-clearance. If you are flying international, you are most likely going to fly through JFK or Newark in New Jersey. And I plan to make other videos that talk about these 2 other airports as well, so expect that in the future. Let's start with the background of LaGuardia. Before 1939, New York did not have its own commercial airport. To fill your commercial flight needs, you would have to go to Newark, which was in New Jersey. This didn't bode well for the mayor of New York at the time, who was Fiorello LaGuardia. During a trip, he had a ticket that said the destination was New York City, but he landed in Newark, New Jersey. And his argument was that if his destination was New York, he should land in New York. So from then on, the quest to create a commercial airport for New York City had started. I won't bore you with the politics and details. Long story short, LaGuardia Airport was built and opened for business on December 2nd, 1939. Something that I found interesting is that when New York finally had its own commercial airport, people were enthralled at the idea of traveling by flight. And so at the time, you could buy a ticket for 10 cents to go and watch airplanes take off and land. And the airport was making a profit off of this because not only were people paying a dime to watch the planes take off and land, but they were also paying for parking and buying food throughout the day. In the early years, LaGuardia also had Transatlantic Flights. But eventually, by the 1950s, all the transatlantic flights moved to Idlewild Airport, which is now the John F. Kennedy Airport. So let's move on to a question you might be asking yourself. Should you or should you not use LaGuardia Airport? And here are 3 things to consider. New York City is actually pretty big if you consider all the 5 boroughs. Manhattan is somewhat small. It's only about 13 miles long and 2 miles wide. But if you count all the boroughs, New York City is massive. And it can get pricey and time-consuming to get from point A to point B. Having said that, consider the location of all 3 airports. JFK is actually on the far, far east of New York City. And with a cab, you can get from JFK to Manhattan within 40 minutes to an hour. And even more if the traffic is really horrible that day. And a cab ride can cost you anywhere from $40 to $70 unless you have some sort of promotion with Uber or Lyft. Again, depending on traffic and demand. Or you could use public transportation. The subway is really easy to use to and from JFK, and it will only cost you less than $10. But it will consume 1 to 2 hours of your time and the inconvenience of lugging around luggage. Newark Airport is in New Jersey. It's much, much closer to Manhattan, but it will cost you the toll fee to cross state borders. You can also take a train from Newark to Penn Station, which is in Midtown Manhattan, and that would cost you about $15. And then from there, you can choose your inner city transportation, whether it's a subway, bus, cab, or simply walking. In LaGuardia, you will be landing in Queens, right smack in the middle of New York City. From LaGuardia, a cab ride can take anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes into the heart of Manhattan, depending on the time of day and how heavy the traffic is. However, unlike Newark and JFK, LaGuardia does not have convenient access to the train. You would either have to take a shuttle from the train or take a bus. But being so close to Manhattan and smack in the middle of New York City, a lot of people just opt for cab service or share ride. This might be a factor if you're loyal to your preferred airline, whether it's for service or loyalty points. LaGuardia is a key hub for some airlines, and airlines tend to have more nonstop options at their key hubs. For example, Delta might have domestic nonstop options if you flew out of LaGuardia than if you flew out of JFK. And South by Southwest in particular only has flights from LaGuardia and not at Newark or JFK. You might have heard of people hating on LaGuardia Airport for their amenities and services, and I don't blame them. LaGuardia is a pretty old airport, and the way people travel today has significantly changed than how people traveled in 1939. But LaGuardia is in the middle of a makeover. Renovations and improvements have started in 2016 and continues to this day. I have no idea when they're gonna finish revamping their airport. They could set a timeline, but if you're from New York, you probably understand how New York construction goes. It's always delayed, just like the subway. But it's nice to see that progress is happening. With all the new improvements, what I've come to like is the integration of share ride services within their facilities. They have a proper system now of how to get picked up by Lyft, Uber, or another share ride service. Before, when ride sharing was very new and you were trying to get picked up at the airport, it was very difficult to get in sync with your Lyft or Uber driver. But now, today, that's no longer the case. Newer terminals like JetBlue are really nice, and it's actually pleasant to just sit and wait in. This might matter to a lot of people, but when you're stuck in an airport for an extended amount of time, nice facilities like nicer toilets, more options to eat can go a very long way. And not to mention chargers that actually charge your phone and other electronics. I was once stuck in one of LaGuardia's older airports and there was nothing good to eat. Like the food options were just paltry. And I ended up deciding on buying a banana. And you will never guess how much this banana cost. The banana, the fruit, cost $1.25 plus tax. And to give you some reference, in the heart of Manhattan, in the busy heart of Manhattan at a Trader Joe's, a single banana only costs 19 cents. That's a 650% markup. And speaking of amenities, I was currently at LaGuardia's Terminal B, and I'm happy to share the findings of that day. Personally, if I had a choice, I would prefer LaGuardia over Newark and JFK for the simple reason that it's easier for me to get to LaGuardia from where I live. And if I had to fly international, I would choose JFK because I could easily take the subway over there without complicated transfers. And this is something I will talk about in another video. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos. And until next time, thank you so much for watching.